start the recording with 5 now joined. And just so everyone's aware, Bill Hunt is unable to join us tonight, so.
Boy, I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. Now black and white? Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Figure out which one's the humming from. Watch it be me. Is everyone else getting that humming or
clicking sound?
I hear it.
All right, I'm gonna mute everyone just to see if we can figure it out. All right, it just went away. So why don't we do this process of elimination here in the next 2 minutes? Matt, why don't you unmute? Okay, Kyle, you go ahead and unmute. We found out who, right? Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, Kyle.
That better, Jim?
That's, yep. Hey, Bill.
Hey, light's a little bright. Right, the time is now 7 p.m. So I'm going to call this Planning Commission meeting to order on August 9th, 2021. Secretary DeBault, can you do a roll call attendance for us, please?
I will. Schenkel,
Present.
Manchester,
Present.
Mucha,
Present.
Cox,
Present.
Newman. Probably join in a bit. Wortella,
Present.
Holmes,
Here.
And DeVault, yes. We'll join Newman when he arrives.
Great, thank you. Moving on here, agenda item number 3, approval of the minutes from June 14th. As everyone's should be aware, we did not have a meeting in July. If you attended that, you were most likely alone. I'm assuming you've had plenty of time to review those minutes from June. Are there any comments or questions? All right. I see Jim amending our agenda, and one more agenda item that needs to be added, Jim, is the approval of the agenda.
Well,
Now that we are updating this, I will call for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
This is Manchester. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes meetings as the agenda as they're written.
Great, thank you. And then support.
This is Cox. I second.
First by Manchester, support by Cox. Roll call, please, Secretary DeVault.
Jankel,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Mucha,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Wortella,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
DeVault, yes.
All right. At this time, we're going to open up for public comment. This is limited to 4 minutes. If we have any public members that would like to share, please state your name
Member-
and your address.
Member Schenkel or Chair Schenkel,
Yes.
we need to approve the minutes from June.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over that, didn't I? I apologize.
Just approve the minutes of June.
So we'll call for a motion for approval of the minutes for June 14th, 2021 there, Jim.
oh, geez, Pete.
So moved.
I missed who that was.
Member Mucha. So moved.
Mucha.
This is
Manchester.
Wortella. I will second that, please.
All right. Motion by Mucha, support by Wortella. Roll call, please, Secretary DeVault.
Jankel,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Mucha,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Wortella,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
and DeVault, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping us on track there. All right, so back to public comment. Do we have any members of the public on, Manager Mallory?
We have 2 members of the public on, and if they wish to speak, I think they're both on by computer. They can go to the bottom of the screen as they move their cursor and the raise hand. Give them a 20-30 seconds. I'm pretty sure both know that, and if they hit the button, we'll give a call to them. Neither one has indicated they wish to speak, Mr. Schenkel.
All right. Give about 10 more seconds and then we can move on here. All right. Thank you for that. We will move on to the next agenda item, number 6, which is the IMO discussion and timeline by village staff and village attorney. Take it over, gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm gonna, well, first, I asked both Bobby Durkee and Andrew Horn to be here to answer questions. We will have, I think the important part of the series is for the Planning Commission is we have a variance request that will go in front of the ZBA. We're going to have a special meeting. I believe it's the last Monday in August, which is August 30th, and I'll confirm that. So we're going to first ask Bobby to speak to that. The actual site plan review or approval will come in front of the Planning Commission at your September meeting. I will remind the members that the September meeting will be an in-person meeting. I will talk to the chair and vice chair to see if there's a comfort level to hold that outdoors at the pavilion versus indoors, and we'll make that announcement within the next 10 business days where that location will be. But I'm going to turn over to Bobby, and then Andrew's here as well as the village attorney to answer any questions this group might have. Ultimately, in our initial review of the site plan and the variance request, staff will be recommending its approval at the ZBA and as it moves through. But why don't we go ahead, Bobby, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jim. And there's not much more to add to that, but I'll give background to some stuff in the agenda report. EMO applied for site plan review last month, submitted a set of plans, and then as part of our due diligence, I started my review of the plans and pretty early caught that there was a conflict with the maximum size. In the I2 zone, the maximum coverage for a building is 30% of the lot, where the plan proposed is 37.4%. So looking at meetings and time ahead, I did let EMO know they would have the option to apply for a variance for that standard, and they chose to apply. So looking ahead with when the Planning Commission meets and the next available meeting to get that in front of the ZBA, we wanted to get it prepared to have an opinion rendered by the Planning Commission. This project was developed in 2015, received site plan approval from the Planning Commission then, and has since been developed. If you've ever been to West Prairie, you see it. So as Jim said, the site plan review would be at a following meeting with the variance item. We chose to put that in front of you guys first. So it would be in addition to the north side of the building, and the applicant stated that they had an assumption that the approval carried over for the future expansion. And, at the time it had the other percentage of it. They brought up the surrounding land uses are similar to this and that it's a low impact. And then, looking at the project myself, the staff consideration was it meets all the setbacks, has plenty of parking, is over the parking needed, meets their stormwater constraints. So the site can accommodate the development. So that's the background on it. The site plan sheets are within the packet as well that show the building addition, as well as a sheet from the approved site plan in 2015, which indicates that the size proposed today is what was shown as a future area then. I guess if there's any questions on it, I'm certainly here for the meeting. And just a reminder, this is the Planning Commission can render an opinion where the ZBA would make the decision whether to grant or deny the variance, which is a building coverage.
So Bobby, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. I think what I heard you say was that the expansion that's being requested would exceed 30% of their property percentage. Is that what I'm understanding? Yep, that's correct. 30% is the maximum. The plan show 37.4%, and the variance request is for 38% coverage, assumingly to cover any little overage or, instead of getting exact figures. Does that percentage typically include parking, or is that just building? It is just the building. There is not a coverage limit for impervious surface, such as concrete, asphalt, or buildings. It's a principal dwelling maximum size. So being the main building on site, it's up to 30%. So what does the other 70% typically make up in these types of situations?
Looking at the setbacks in our zoning ordinance, they do allow quite a distance from the building. I would interpret that as to make sure that industry doesn't over dominate a site, but also to include areas for green belts, green strips, stormwater, parking. Some industries could have large truck bays, but essentially that does leave 70% of any parcel in that zone to, be as needed. Obviously there's parking or loading bays, as I said, but at least by the code, it can't be part of the main building.
One more question. Are there any adjacent properties that are available for them to purchase?
No, they're surrounded on all sides except to the west and south, obviously, which is right away. To the north is the miniature custom manufacturing, which, got a variance as well. And in that one, as a reminder, it did include a future development area on that one. I thought that was an interesting tie-in to this one. And then to the east is the trailer storage building and the manufacturers to the east there, which is its own lot. So there's no available vacant land for them to acquire that isn't already owned.
Hey, Bobby, yeah, I have a question. It's Rick Manchester. Is it required that a notice is sent out to any of the existing factories located around it to have their input, kind of like when a homeowner does go for a variance? Usually you have to send out for a certain area around that for any input from anybody that's attached to it. Is that the same for industrial?
Yes, and that public hearing would take place with the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I
Okay.
believe Jim said is targeting the 30th. The option would exist either to do it for the Planning Commission opinion or for the variance meeting, and I believe I've seen both, the village do both. And in this instance, the public notice would be before the Zoning Board of Appeals decision.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. This is Wortella. Bobby, you said they had a variance approved in 2015.
No, the building was, the site plan approval was in 2015. That was, there was nothing that conflicted with the ordinance, so there was no request for variance.
But on that 215 approval, it did show this addition that we're talking about tonight.
That is correct. On the screen here in front of you is a sheet from that site plan. And then the zoom in below is the 2000, both of them are the 2015 plan.
And you indicated that they thought that site plan approval in 2015 allowed them to go forward with this construction without additional variance. Is that what their assumption was or is?
I wouldn't say that there was any assumption. Judging off of the completeness of the application, I just think it was something not identified in before turning in for site plan review.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Andrew?
Jim, I got one, if you don't mind. For
Go
Andrew
ahead.
or Bobby, possibly. And I know this was 6 years ago, but Bobby, is there any records of the minutes? Like Don said, they showed it on their site plan. Was there any discussion back then of them expanding it in the future? And I know that was probably before your time of coming on board as the planning director, and possibly for Jim as well, but I didn't know if.
Here are the minutes from that date, Bobby. I just screen shared it.
Yeah, and I think it might be the last couple pages. They're in the agenda packet as well. The minutes did not reflect any discussion about it. They're quite light on detail, but it just shows that the site plan was approved. So, and at the time, as you can see, I was there. I don't have any recollection of it.
This is the member DeVault. This is for Bobby and Andrew and Jim. That park was designed as an industrial park, which is what this project is doing. So it would seem to me that the expansion of any businesses is what that park was designed for.
Yeah, that's our thought process. And Bobby, you can, I mean, we've looked at it and discussed it internally. Like I said, it will receive a recommendation on the variance request for approval. And Bobby can expound on that if he chooses. You know, the information that we've acquired, we feel very comfortable with moving forward with their request and supporting the variance requests that they've proposed and applied for.
I think in my background, to touch on that, Jim, this is the last available land within the North Legion Business Park that could feasibly fit with MCM's expansion to the north and their further proposed expansion, which may or may not happen. There is no more land within that development that I can see to expand. And to those points, a development is being proposed, which by all the other ordinance constraints, stormwater containment, parking, shipping, fire access, it meets all the requirements. So in my opinion, the request is not, it's working within the ordinance. The ordinance is now has this hardship where they got a building that can meet the other constraints, but still has an impact to the building coverage.
Yeah, Andrew, do you have comments on that?
Yeah, I would just echo that. I mean, the first thing we look for is there a hardship in this case because they meet everything else? Because you're not doing anything devaluing properties around it. John, like you said, it's what the park was intended for. We essentially said, okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's a bigger property and it's a bigger building, but it's still due to the size of the property, it can be considered a hardship. So
I have a little bit of a maybe devil's advocate question. You know, is this in any way setting a precedent that if someone asks for a variance for this type of scenario, what's to say, you know, 37% versus, you know, 60%? You know, is there a cutoff percentage?
Each variance request that would be applied for is evaluated on its independent merits. And you know, the hypotheticals, but it would not, and Andrew can correct me, but in my experience, it would not set a precedent that required us to support a future hypothetical variance that might, under your example, use the 37% coverage. We're not bound by that.
yeah, I would agree. I think it's a great question, but as each variance, as you all know, is considered individually, I think there's enough factors here to sit there and say, well, again, is there harm? Well, and are they creating the harm by building this? I've seen variances approved for a lot less. And so I looked at it and went, yeah, I think there is a hardship here. Just because of the size of the building and the size of the property. So
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions from this commission?
I think it was excellent questions and appreciate all of them and a good conversation.
So just a reminder, are we looking for a recommendation from this body? What is it, the actionable item that the staff is looking for here?
If the chair wishes to entertain a motion to support the recommendation for approval to the ZBA, that could be an option. We just wanted to make sure that this board understood the final decision is the ZBA's. But if you're comfortable in supporting the staff recommendation, that's one option.
I'll open it up to the commission. If someone would like to make a motion for a recommendation to support this, we can entertain that for sure.
This is Wortella. I'm not sure of the wording that we want here, but I'm in support of recommending that this variance be approved. Does that fit what you're after?
Yeah, maybe a motion that supports staff's recommendation for the ZBA to approve this variance request.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jim. That's my motion, please.
Shows you the tenure we've worked together, Don.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Wortella. Is there support from this body?
Holmes, I support.
Support from Holmes. Any further discussion before roll call? Hearing none. Secretary DeBault, will you please take a roll call vote for us?
Jenko,
Yes.
Manchester,
Yes.
Mucha,
Yes.
is that yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Cox,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Wortella,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
DeBault, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the support is a 8-0 vote.
Great, thank you. Agenda item number 7, we have Downtown Development Authority, and I'll kick it over to Village Manager Mallory and Mr. Lee.
Yes, let me see if I can. Alex, I'm gonna try to get us, I'm gonna pass it to Alex Lee, who is spearheading our involvement. We're a week away from having a kickoff of Oswald Park. So I'm going to turn it over to him, explain, and Alex, I'll show the 3D photos.
All right, thanks, Jim. We are planning to restore Oswald Park, and that park is named after Major Ferris H. Oswald. He was known in the community simply as Uncle Jim, the world's friendliest banker. Oswald Park, of course, is in the heart of our historic downtown, and it's our intent to restore the park into a comfortable community gathering space featuring new walkways, seating areas, a game area, and a fire pit heating element that will extend the park's seasonal use. This effort will be made possible through a new crowdfunding campaign through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. The campaign is being offered through the Michigan-based crowdfunding platform known as Patronicity. When the campaign reaches its crowdfunding goal of $50,000 within 60 days after the start of the campaign, the project will win a matching grant with funds made possible by MEDC's Public Spaces Community Places program. So in a nutshell, what that means is we've submitted our program. It has been approved. We have created the webpage where donors can contribute directly, and we expect to launch that site and the campaign next Monday morning.
Be happy to entertain any questions that.
Jim, I know this is a pretty small space. It looks like you guys have really put a lot into this space pretty efficiently. How do you see this being used, at our larger village events?
Well, definitely we wanted to create a hangout, inviting in repurposing of this area. It's about 65 feet by 92 feet. We did have a landscape engineer provide drawings, hand drawings initially, and then these are more 3D to scale drawings. So we see it being used first and foremost as in conjunction with our social district. It's within the social district, and we tried to design it in that manner. We brought in the heat source to extend the yearly use of this area. We also park, and if my cursor shows up, the park to the west incorporated adult and kids bag games, and just to create an inviting area that people will feel relaxed, safe, and comfortable in. As far as a festival, we look at this area in the same manner. The streetscapes for Prairie and Main Street are designed to hold festivals on Main Street between Prairie and Washington. So depending upon the type of festival, or if we need a stage, the stage would be put off on North Main Street just to the east of this location. So it would be able to have a view. You'd see there's less trees on the east side. So it'd be incorporated from a festival standpoint in that manner.
Jim, this is Wertella. Those evergreens that are forming the V there on the shot that I'm seeing, they're to the, that's to the west and the north, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be a good privacy screen, I think, to separate the park from other things, and it could be a good windbreak too. I like the concept. I like the layout, the way this looks.
Yeah, and Alex really led that initiative. We also wanted a definitive boundary for the social district. So they worked with the landscape architect to have views inside the park, which invites people to go into the space. But yes, the exact what you said, not only privacy, but a windbreak.
Hey, Jim, this is Rick Manchester. Any of that parking going to still be available to us that's to the north of that? Or is that gonna be...
Yeah, that parking lot's owned by Kelsey Credit Union. And I, as we sit right here, I believe it will be I have nothing to indicate it will not be available to us.
Okay.
Jim, I remember sharing feedback with you and Mr. Lee on this this park. I'm wondering if there was any additional thought given to, some minor playground equipment for children. I know this is more adult focused. I'm just kind of wondering if that was considered or discussed at all.
Yeah, it's a kind of a parallel thought process. One is the space we are dealing with. We did incorporate the kids' bag game. I think there'll be an area that, I don't know the name of the game, where you pull out the bigger blocks to see if it falls or not. But in conjunction is also our plans right now between the 2023 and 2026 timeframe, that Clark Park will be redone, and that will be an emphasis on updated play structures appropriate for that under 12 age group of children.
Great, thank you. When are you anticipating this work to begin?
Well, when the fundraising campaign kicks off, we should have a good indication. To get any money from the MEDC, this program, we have to raise the $50,000 locally. We should have a good indication by mid-September if we're on that, and it would be in our intention to bid it out by October 9th, giving contractors, if they feel to start the construction at any time, but it would be our goal to try to have this completed by Memorial weekend of 2022. So timeline would be fundraising is over. the bids go out, which will be overseen by Prine Newhoff, receive the bids, open them by mid-October, and see what construction schedule the bidding would allow.
Jim, this is Member DeVault.
Yes, sir.
With the fundraising campaign, you said it's starting possibly in September, you said, correct?
No, next Monday.
Or next week, Monday. In our budget, we have a line item that money has been put away for Oswald Park.
Correct.
Correct. If we don't hit that budget or that number, can that money be put towards it?
Yes, the council appointed Bill Adams to lead the fundraising effort. And I'm pretty confident in Bill, and he's assured us he's gonna give his best. But yes, it can both be used as well as money within our Parks and Rec budget as well. I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that, but we'd use those line items in case of that.
Okay.
Any other questions on the?
Hey, Jim, it's Rick.
Yes.
I'm trying, for some reason, I thought that there was a comment made, I don't know how long ago, that this was going to incorporate something about brewery and that. Was that considered at one time? I'm just curious whether I'm making this up or if my memory is correct.
I don't know specifically to what you're referring to, reference brewery. If discussion or conversations took place within the community due to the fact that this land is within our social district, and we knew that at the time we were developing this concept, but staff led, I don't know what the brewery concept would be. I don't know if Alex is aware or not.
I don't remember any discussions to a brewery or any type of event. I might add to the discussion earlier, part of the discussion also was events in our downtown area. We're steps away from the Artist Gallery and the music residency program. So we saw this as a wonderful gathering place for folks to attend events, to do shopping in our downtown, to have a meal. There was also discussion, as Mr. Schenkel asked us about the playground equipment. As we started the conversation, it's a very limited space. And the Clark Park Children's Playground was close enough that we thought we should focus on seating. And one question that came up with the Parks and Recs Committee was about handicap seating, and those trellis seating areas along the fire pit are extended on the ends so that a wheelchair can get under those. So those were a few other pieces of the discussion that Jim missed, and I think they're important to this conversation.
Alex, this is Wertella. I seem to recall that there's a time capsule buried on the east side of that park. And I forget the date. It was, like a 50 or 100-year thing. Have you found that? Have you looked at that?
We know where it is. The plan is to relocate it. If it is not compromised, some of the cement around it appears to be pretty cracked.
Yeah.
And we won't know the answer to that question fully until we dig it up. But if it's intact, it's going to be relocated and then dug up on the original date.
Thank you.
Hey, Alex, just one more. First off, thanks for the additional detail. Any signage with this? I'm just curious, is there anything like that to identify this as Oswald Park?
Sorry, I lost it, but yes, we have had a number of conversations with the Oswalt family. We have gathered information about Uncle Jim Oswalt. The park will have a very pronounced sign that it is Oswalt Park, and there will be information about Mr. Oswalt in the park as well. The specifics of that, you know, we haven't designed, we haven't discussed. We do have the information, and I can tell you, in addition to a very friendly banker who folks tell us you could make a deal with Uncle Jim in the hardware store if you wanted a loan and he'd shake on it and you were good to go. He also had a very honored and colorful military career on the African continent. So I think there will be some follow-up discussions, but Mr. Holmes, yes, we want that park. You know, one of the discussions we had early is that people have heard Oswalt Park, but sometimes they don't know that's the park, and it wasn't labeled well enough. The family is very supportive of this effort, and they're sharing. So if you have some thoughts in that regard, I'd love to hear them, because I have some really interesting things to work with. And I'd like that to be a very pronounced part of this park renovation.
That's great. Thank you, Alex. You're probably dealing with the right group and dealing with the family. Their legacy goes back, as many know, for a few generations. So
Alex, can you share with us information on how to donate to the crowdfunding and where people can find that information?
I can't at this point by rules of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation.
Okay.
And their reasoning is very sound. If we give out the website address, people go to donate and they can't, chances are they won't come back. So I can promise you, as soon as the campaign is launched, in addition to the MEDC doing a press release, we'll be all over the webpage and Facebook, making it very clear where folks can go with a live link. So when they show up, we'll be happy to assist them in helping us do this renovation.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Any other questions for the staff on Oswalt Park? All right. Looks like there's one more thing. There we go. Update on infrastructure project.
Yeah, real quick, and I've been included in the Planning Commission. We will have an update on Wednesday. I have a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. But the project is on schedule. The asphalt on Prairie Street from Wilson and up to Pearl, the subcontractor is a little behind there, but we also did not want any asphalt to be put down during any type of rain or moisture period. But we do know that August 30th will be the first day that the project moves on to Main Street. And what will happen as well, give it maybe 1 week into September, Prairie Street will begin to get its final restoration into the final concept design, and people will begin to see the shape of the curbs and in that as this project continues forward. There is one section of water main that'll be updated yet on Prairie Street between Kalamazoo and Main Street. And then again, the sewer will, the sewer will continue southbound on Main to Washington and eventually westbound on Washington. You'll see some work done down on Mill Street by the Speedway, correcting some water main issues that have been there for some time. So that work you might begin to see as well. But we hopefully have rounded the halfway point with full steam ahead and draw to the conclusion. We feel we're in a very good position that we will be having the Christmas in the Village event. And so we just move forward and be happy to answer any questions.
So Jim, at this point, where do you think we're going to be by the time the snow flies? Do you think, as far as Main Street, do you think, how far
I'm
do you
sorry.
think it'll be on Main?
I didn't hear the time frame that you asked, Rick.
I was curious, by the time the snow flies, where do you think we'll be at as far as on Main Street?
Done.
Oh, really? Done with the streetscape and everything?
All I can do is pray that the person who puts snow on earth puts it to the later half of November. I mean, I hopefully didn't ask for a Labor Day snowstorm, but I think the first week in November, that first 10 days in November will be the wrap up on the rebuild. We at that point will evaluate, reference the amenities of chairs and all of that being put out, or wait until the spring for that. But the curb lines, the colored cement, the one-way street, I believe we're on a schedule to have that all in by the first 10 days in November.
Okay. Thank you.
Jim, I'm sorry if I missed this. Did you say that it's on track to be completed in the timeline as originally shown?
Actually, ahead of the timeline, some of our timeline went out into the spring of 2022. But a considerable period up into this week, the contractor Milbacher has 3 full crews working on it. One of those crews were moved to another job for a couple weeks, and then we'll be back in town. So we're pleased with the progress, and it's very pleased.
Any other questions for village staff on the infrastructure project? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, the Planning Commission member terms. Village Manager Mallory.
Yeah, so we started to do a little research, trying to piece together by minutes and that the terms of everyone. One thing we're recommending to the chair is if first on election of officers, if people wanted to make motions on the chair and vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer is still listed in the bylaws. So, and Michelle Morgan would be at this meeting, but she's on vacation, heading to Minnesota tonight. Is we did not have the meeting in July, so it'd be our recommendation that we firm that up at the September meeting to go in this fiscal year. But in consultation with Andrew Horn, we're proposing basically just starting the terms over. And again, as listed there in no particular order, the council seat that Mr. Holmes sits in is appointed by the president, village president, supported by a council vote each year. So that's why I anticipate Mr. Holmes being a part of the group while he's on the council, but that's why he's not listed. It's handled with the village president and council. But to have the 2 terms come up next May, and then subsequent to that, 3 terms in 23 and 3 terms in 24. And there's some dates here that have to get obviously by years. We were working on this just before the meeting. So the and then we'll all be on the same page. But the historical records aren't the best. So I'll pause there and answer any questions or thoughts that members might have.
So is the middle column the existing terms?
Let me move it so I can see. I have we have the name. No, this would be the new term limits. The first 2 next May, figuring we find out if the members want to continue, if they don't want to continue. Also by council vote, I think it was last year, within the last 2 fiscal years, if there is an opening, we post it to see if other citizens want to become engaged in the community. And then in June, the council, again, the village president would recommend to the council the names, who to fill those spots. The council would take action in June, and we'd swear them in at the July meeting each year. And they would be, at that point, they'll be 3-year terms. So in 22, there'll be 2 citizens that appointed to 3-year terms. 23, there'll be 3, and 24, there'll be 3. Then you always have 2/3 of your board in place, and at most, it would be 1/3 of the board if everyone decided not to come back or whatever. Historically, that hasn't happened, but.
Well, I think this is a great idea. Thank you for digging into this and addressing it. Any other questions for village staff on this recommendation? So Jim, what are you looking for here on this?
Well, on that, we'll send out this by email, and I can spell out a summary to each of the members on how it plays out. I think what I did want to highlight during this time is that we do have in the bylaws that each year a chairperson, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer would be selected amongst your group. So it could play out where if you want to take nominations, whether tonight or nominations in September, and have those spots selected by this board in October, that's the chair's prerogative. In future years, we will try to get that completed in the month of July that starts a new fiscal year.
Well, I'd like some feedback from this group on the willingness of tonight to maybe nominate members for the chair, or the vice chair, the secretary. Is anyone feeling strongly one way or the other that we should or shouldn't do it tonight?
This is Wertella. Perhaps we could cogitate on it a little bit and maybe do something along those lines in September. I wouldn't mind if we did tonight, but I think the concept is very good that roughly 1/3 of the board is replaced on that schedule that you see there. But I guess my personal feeling is let's maybe wait till September.
Chair Schenkel, I'd support member on the comments on that, especially if we're going to be hopefully meeting in person in September. maybe better to come back together as a group and discuss this then. As well. So, percolated on it until then.
I think what I heard from Vice Chair Mucha is supporting what we heard from Wartella.
Okay, I couldn't hear what he said.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
guys, internet connection issues. Yes. You
Okay.
know, waiting until September to move on positions that would allow us to get back together in person and discuss more in a group setting.
All right. Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, we wouldn't be voting tonight. We would be making motions for consideration for the different positions. But I think what I heard is giving us some time to think about that and coming prepared with that information for the September meeting is the desired path here. I think we have our direction moving forward here, Village Manager Mallory. So I think we can move on to member comments. Any comments from the Planning Commission?
This is DeBalt. I just have one comment. We're telling Don, you didn't state you're not in the village right now, are you?
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I will back up to a roll call that you are not in the village and you are in, just state where you're at right now for the record.
5602 Eastview Avenue, UV Avenue, not in the village.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, time is now 7:53. I'm gonna adjourn this meeting. Everyone have a great rest of your week. Great August.
Good evening, folks.
Take care.
Thank you.